Hey everybody, welcome to Raven for Truth. This is episode 2. Here we go. This is an interview I did with a friend of mine, Chayclynn, pronounce it correctly. And yeah, we met on TikTok and just sort of, I really liked her content and we just started interacting. And then when I started doing this podcast, she was like one of the first people I wanted to talk to because her story and just how she shares so authentically and purely on social media is inspirational, and it inspired me to keep pushing and keep doing what I'm doing, and it just brought forward a really good message, and I wanted to share that message with as many people as I could, and I have this platform. That's what it's for, so I just wanted to do it. Let's do a oracle draw for this interview, and we'll see what sort of energy the cards want to add to this interview. Okay, so the upper world, and I think that's a great tone. It's really important to think about like that higher world and just that striving for the higher self and letting that authentic light within you shine out and shine beautifully. And I think Chayclynn does a really good job of that, and she is just so embraced her femininity, and she did long before she embraced her transition and who she is as a woman, and I find it really inspirational and really beautiful, and I hope you enjoy it too. So here we go. Hey everybody, it's me, Alice, and I've got Chayclynn here. And Chayclynn, can you give us your age, your gender identity, and your location, please?
Uh, my age, I am 54 years old. My gender identity, trans woman, pronouns she, her, and I am in Gibsons, British Columbia.
Oh, awesome. I'm from British Columbia. I was born in Nanaimo, so it's always sweet to my heart whenever I run into people from BC.
I see Nanaimo all the time across the water. See
Yeah,
the lights
yeah.
at night.
Yeah, that's pretty close, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, I met Chayclynn. She goes by It's Candy on TikTok, right?
that is correct. I go
Yeah,
by
and
Candy Struts on TikTok.
yeah, and I ran into her there, and we just have engaged with each other's content, and I've just really enjoyed her story and just her journey and that love and acceptance that you try and put out there for others, because you try and help other people see the joy and the love in themselves, and that just warms my heart. It's such a wonderful thing. So I wanted to get you on Raven for Truth so we could hear your story and hear what kind of brought you to this point in your life and just sort of what you're doing.
Thanks, Alice. Thank you. Love yourself.
Yeah, yeah, love yourself, be yourself. Yeah.
Be kind to yourself, love.
Yeah, yeah, I repeat it to myself a lot, actually. It stuck into that affirmation mantra. I love it. Yeah.
It came to me in fragments over a year ago, and if you do follow me on TikTok, I actually have little individual TikToks last year that I made as to why I do each one of them and where they came from. My affirmations originally started from me writing them in the steam on the mirror. Um,
Oh, that's
you
beautiful.
know, in it it was just every day I would look at it and I would write them out and I would read them and they morphed. They morphed into exactly that, and even now they're starting to change a little bit again. And I think
Yeah.
that's an important thing to keep evolving and to keep growing.
Yeah, to keep following our journey and just keep going through life. And yeah, yeah, it's beautiful. I've looked back and I've seen those old videos, and I just like thought it was so magical. I've finally been on TikTok long enough that I'm starting to get like the memories. Like I've been active on
Uh,
it for a year now. So I like seeing that stuff come up is really interesting and really fun. Yeah.
I love the memory feature as well. Um, I think one of my favorite things about going on to TikTok is that was my place to not hide. I had no one, no friends were connected to it. It was just my own place to explore. And I can remember when I first started going onto TikTok, I would make TikToks and I would delete them because I was terrified.
Yeah.
Um, I was just absolutely terrified. So I'd make a TikTok and I'd take it down. And then sometimes I'd make a TikTok and I'd put it up and I'd be like, okay, no, I can do this. I can
Yeah,
leave that up there. And it just it really was my place to grow and to learn. Everybody knows I'm on there now, that I
yeah.
know, and that's fine. But it really was a safe haven for me, in the time that I started on there.
I find that with my social media as well. It's just really a place where I can just express and also workshop things and just sort of like be me and just put it out into the world and not have to like deal with walking down the street and someone having an issue with it or something like that. Not that that really happens either. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly it. Like you're feeling the water, and if you can handle the internet, like if you can take on the internet and you can hold your own there, you can hold your own in the real world anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. I survived the chat rooms of being 15 in the early 2000s. I can handle social media at this point, I think, or whatever comes at me because of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Finding the internet and the social media can be the meanest place in the world. So,
Yeah. I had one of my old blog posts show up, actually. I like stumbled across it and I was like, weird. Yeah, and then you read through it and you're like, oh, there's the trans girl. Just staring at me, was typing into a keyboard at 15. Trying to figure out life. Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
love
where
that.
you live now, is that where you're from?
No, it's not actually. I'm originally from the Maritimes. I'm a maritime girl. I was born way back in 1970, and yeah, I grew up in the Greater Moncton area, so north of Moncton, Kent County, New Brunswick, is where my family's from, and I lived in New Brunswick till I was 28. So I really have a good foundation of being a maritimer,
That's
and I think that
understandable.
part, yeah, so that has really stuck with me. And when people turn around and say, "Oh, you know," as a part of me to define myself, I define myself as a maritimer. But I live in British Columbia, and British Columbia is now home to me.
I understand
Um,
that. Yeah.
yeah, but like I said, when you are born in a place and you live there and you're there until you're almost 30, that really has a huge influence on who you are.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I have to say, I am very proud to say I am a maritimer. It was a hard place to grow up as a kid, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, and but I am still very proud to be from there. I think it's an incredible place. But it always felt, I mean, after I left it, you could look at it and I always felt like it was about 10 years behind socially, or 15 years behind socially to other provinces in the country.
I
Um,
feel that I relate to that being in northern Alberta and growing up here. And like, I'm not from here, but I grew up here. Like, I grew up in Ground Birch, Dawson Creek, the whole Peace Country, basically. So I definitely relate to that. And like, I would say I'm from here. Like, if people are like,
yeah,
oh, where are you from? I'm from Grand Prairie, but I was born in Nanaimo. Like, that's how it
okay.
goes, right? Because like,
Yeah,
I've been up here for most of my adult life. Sorry, I was just turning my notifications off.
no worries. No, the interesting, yeah, that you went to Grand Prairie from Nanaimo. Um,
I don't understand that one. And it was Ground Birch, which was rural outside of Dawson Creek. So it was like the middle of nowhere, northern BC. It was very like very rural. I don't know. I don't even have that story. Like why that was the pick. I don't have that story.
it was meant to be. It's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. My memory starts up here. It starts in Ground Birch. So
I ended up in British Columbia, because of my late husband. His parents, he was born in Alberta, and his parents retired here in Gibsons in the 70s. And when I first met him, I was living in Toronto. I moved from New Brunswick to Toronto in 1999, and I met him in 2002. And the first night I met him, he was He was like, "What do you think of Vancouver?" And I said, "Honey, I haven't been west of Hamilton." And
It's a place.
didn't
Yeah.
know what to expect. And it was just his dream to always move out here, and that's how I ended up here. And I'm really glad that I followed his dream and I moved out here.
That's
And
awesome.
it's
How long have you been there?
I moved to Gibson's in 2011, so it's been over 13 years that I've been here now.
That's
So
awesome.
it is the last house I lived in was the longest I ever lived in one house in my life, and I was in it for 13 years,
That's
and
awesome.
uh, and it was mind blowing. Before that, I it was like I was always moving and moving and moving. So
I understand that. I've been very transient. I've been very nomadic. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's nice to set down some roots somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you have your drag show, right? How long have you been doing that?
Pine and Sandy, the drag troupe that I belong to. That actually is This is our 3 year anniversary this month on November the 27th. Will be 3 years since our first show. And we started meeting in September of that year. So it's been a few years that we've started getting to know one another. And yeah, I came out as Candy Struts at that time. And that was, I remember when I first started the very first show, I had just started using they, them pronouns at
Oh
that
yeah.
time. And that was just me trying to find myself and getting to know who I am. And I think I knew who I was. I was just terrified of who I was. Yeah, I know I knew who I was.
Right.
And
Yeah. It takes a lot of internal acceptance.
It really, really does. And so that's how Candy Struts came about. I used to call my truck Candy, and
Oh
uh,
yeah.
and I turned around and I was just like, I really like the name Candy, and I was turning around and I'm like, I got to get my strut back. So that's how I came up with Candy Struts, and
I
Candy
love
Strut
that. That's beautiful.
came about. And so yeah, I'm doing a show on November 30th this month for
That's
the
cool.
Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society. Is what we're raising money for them. And I think the sponsor for it this year is the credit union. Sunshine Coast Credit Union is sponsoring it. And this is the third year the Pine and Sandy Drag Troupe has been part of it. They have a reception beforehand, and they have silent auction. And I know they've raised in the past 2 years over 30K, and this year the whole thing they're hoping to get it over 50K.
Yeah, that would
So
be amazing. Yeah,
it would be
absolutely.
amazing. And to be part of that as Candy Struts, like the 3 years ago,
Hmm.
to be able to do that this year and be part of that is just an incredible thing to do.
Yeah, totally. I bet. And make sure you send me the link so I can put it down below in the description so people can find it.
Oh, I will. I will. I will. So yeah,
Yeah.
yep, yep. 2 weeks.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. So I was going through and editing, and I noticed that there's a part of this conversation missing. So the end of this is just sort of a wrap up, and then it leads into the next story, which I noticed the recording had stopped and I turned it back on. So I just caught or missed kind of the scene setting for that, but it was just setting the scene for how Chayclynn met her husband. So it leads right into that. So here we go.
Smoking a cigarette, and this guy came up and asked me if he could buy me a beer, and I said, "Of course you can buy me a beer." And we stood there and we talked and we talked. We literally just started talking, and the it was a really hot night, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. And we talked and talked and talked, and we ended up in a cab. And because this is just who I was a drinker at the time, and it was the only way I would ever connect with people. And we hopped into a cab, and the song "Cruisin'" from Huey Lewis and Gwyneth Paltrow was playing. And I was in the cab, and I can remember I was lying with my head on his lap, looking up through the windows. I could see all the street lights going by as we were going up to his place in the cab. And I play that song today, and
I
it
bet.
is just the best memory ever. And that was the night I met my husband, and we were together for over 21 years till he passed away last year of glioblastoma. And when I started coming out and started transitioning, I went with they, them pronouns and non binary. I remember I did an art show. Um, this was in 2020. I was doing an art show, and it was a queer art show, and it was about gender flux. And I was really excited to have the opportunity to do a show of this nature. And I wanted to do a self portrait in it of me in drag. And I remember telling him about it, and he was so nervous about me doing that. And I said, I said I can do it is with king drag. I'll be a king in it, like I'll go hyper masculine in it.
I love that.
And he was,
Yeah.
yeah, and he was okay with that. He was. Um, so when I started transition, I was terrified he was going to leave me. But the friendship that we grew through the years was strong enough that in the end, before he passed away, he was calling me wife. And that's where we were. And um, our relationship was quite incredible. The first time I went out with him, where I presented quite feminine, I wouldn't say I was fully transition. I was doing they, them at the time, but I had a big pair of palazzo pants on and I had a scoop neck sweater on. And we went out on, we were on a cruise. We went down to Mexico on a cruise and we had formal night. And I put on these palazzo pants and this scoop neck top. And I tried putting my eyelashes on and I was so nervous with them. And we went out and I had my earrings in and I thought I looked cute. But we
I'm
went
sure you
down,
did.
yeah, we went down to the dining room and I was terrified. And he was looking at me and he was nervous. He was nervous. And I was standing in line to go into the dining room and all these women were around. And I'm like, girl, just put your shoulders down, just relax and throw a smile on your face. You got this. And as soon as I did that, people started reacting to me in a positive manner. And I was like, wow, this is absolutely incredible. And he looked at me and he's like, you look really good. Like when he saw me do that, he's like, you look really good. And he could see that I had it. He could see that I was going to be fine that night.
Yeah.
And I mean, since then, I mean, it's been a lot of rocky roads through it all. Um, but that was the first night with him that he was like, okay, here she
Yeah.
goes. She got this. And that was January of 2023. And it was 1 month before I started HRT. Um, and and I had shaved my beard off 2 months before then. And I was an absolute wreck those first 3 months after shaving my beard off. I was just terrified and like, where was my life going to go? What was going to happen? And it was all of this. You push yourself down and you push yourself down, and it was just finally that release of going, be sincere and be honest and be authentic.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Yeah, it makes such a big difference. Yeah. And
yeah,
like that moment when you like get to present yourself and be as yourself and go out is, especially when the first time you do it, I think it's so important. And it sets the tone, right? So I love that
yeah,
your husband really helped you set such a positive tone with it, and that really helps with the transition journey, right? It was the same thing after I came out. I was still with my co-parent, and we went out for our anniversary dinner. That was like the first time I'd really gone out where I was femme presenting, right? And having that like pillar of somebody who was supportive, because they were very supportive of my transition. We ended up separating because of different issues, but like they were very supportive of me transitioning and like our son transitioning and all that. So it was just so valuable to have that and to have that support in that. And like I refer to them as my co-parent and not my ex, because like sure we're not together anymore, but like we have parented, and I consider them a friend, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that and I can understand that. I even know that with Rob and I mean, I'm sure our relationship today would be very different if he had not passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it, but the love was there and our friendship was there. And
Yeah.
that was the key thing. We were just always there to support one another, whether or not we would have stayed together as a couple. I don't know, to be honest with you. I really don't know if we would have, or if we did, it would be a very different dynamic to what it was and to what we originally established. We were, he was 15 years older than me, and our dynamic was based on a very traditional model.
So
And
was ours. I understand that
yeah,
entirely. Like I was the husband and I had my wife, right? That
yeah,
was the dynamic, and it was like that friction that made us separate because like that
yeah,
created so much friction in so many other aspects of our relationship, right? And like
yeah,
I think we're better friends than we were partners.
yeah.
Yeah.
But when you start to become authentically yourself, you just have to be true to you,
Hmm.
and that doesn't mean that love doesn't exist there.
Yeah.
It just means that you're just being honest and sincere with yourself. And if somebody else loves you, they're going to support you in that way, and their love is still going to be there for you.
Yeah,
It's not going to
absolutely.
diminish. It actually grows and becomes stronger in a different way.
Yeah,
um,
the love is unconditional, right? It's just you may feel it for different people in different levels in different ways, but I think it's always unconditional. Like the love comes from an unconditional place.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, he was a good guy.
Yeah. Were you out when you were in school in on the East Coast?
When I was in high school, no, I was not out. Although everybody knew. I remember on Frosh Week, this was terrifying. They put me up on a table in the cafeteria and they wrote the word, gosh, can I say it? They wrote the word fag on my leg and they put me up on a cafeteria and people were cheering. And I was, oh my God, what's happening? And it
No
was not a
doubt.
pleasant experience.
Yeah.
Um, and um, I had the odd friend, the misfits. I had the odd person that would talk to me,
Hmm.
but I didn't have any friends that I really hung around with very much. There was a few of them through the years. I did have a girlfriend in high school, but yet it was so difficult and it was so challenging those years. I have to say though, in high school, the bullying had stopped after that in the cafeteria because I just basically would scream or yell at anyone who came near me.
I mean, justifiably so at that point, I think.
Yeah, yeah, they would just leave me alone. But before that, I would just crumble, and they would just go at me for years up
Yeah.
until after that.
Well, and I think
So
it's a
no,
really important story about high school experience, especially in the past. I had lots of negative experience. People called me that word when I was in grade school. I was
yeah,
like, no, I'm not. And they're like, well, are you gay? And I'm like, I don't know. I like girls. Boys are cute, but I like girls.
I kissed a boy when I was in grade one.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I went up to him in it was recess, and I can actually remember this. And I walked up and I gave him a kiss on the cheek, and it was just who I was. I was such a cheery child, and I just went up and I gave him a kiss on the cheek. Oh my gosh, I got in so much trouble for that.
Oh,
I
really?
remember I got in so much trouble for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I never did it again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, like kids should be allowed to show affection. Like, who's to say that a boyfriend can't show a boyfriend affection? They don't have to be a couple, right?
And that's all it was. I mean, I was just cheerful, and we were laughing, and I would just, yeah,
Yeah, probably something your mom did to you 1,000 times, right? Where it was just a
probably
positive, happy moment, and it's time for a kiss.
exactly, yeah, right. So hey, yeah, that's all it is, and kids should have that ability to just be who they are and enjoy it and not be shamed for who they are.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, the '70s were a different decade than this one. Yeah,
Yeah, well, and I think it's still an important reminder today because we still have people that think that kids should be corralled like that, right?
oh no, yeah, yeah. yeah, I don't really want to say it, but yes, it's scary times, isn't it? When,
Sometimes, yeah. I
yeah,
think there's
yeah, when we see what's
the
happening.
positives are in a way outweighing the negatives. We just it's harder to see them. It's harder to find them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like what'd you do for work growing up? What was your first
Oh
job?
gosh, my very first job.
Yes.
My very first job is I worked for a convenience store called Green Gables,
Oh,
and
okay.
I was in high school, and I wanted to go on an art trip to New York City in grade 12. And if I was going to go, I had to make the money myself.
Oh,
So
okay.
I worked at a convenience store on the weekends and after school in the evening as a cashier, and that was my first job.
That's
Air
great.
quotes, first job. Before that, I babysat and I did whatever I could to make some money. But that was just money here and there. And after that, yeah, I sold shoes for years. I worked as a receptionist. I worked in office administration in Toronto. I worked as a baker for a while. I did all kinds of jobs. Jobs were when I turned 22, I came out of the closet as gay, and I didn't see myself then as a trans woman. I saw myself as just very femme. And I remember back in the 90s that I used to see trans women in the media, and I was not. I was not comfortable with that. I was like, that's not who I am. That I
Mhm.
know that's not who I am. That's not who I want to be. What was being portrayed. And it truly is. It's what it was being portrayed. I didn't see who I could be.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
I
the
just
lens. Like if there was a different lens on those girls, then it would have been a different story, right? Like if you actually got to
um
hear their experiences and their stories, but it was like
it was a show.
it was a show.
It was a show. Like they would always be in a bikini. They would always be it was always hypersexual. It was always that.
Yeah. Well,
And
and it was always very look how trapped this is, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I just remember going, that's I can't be that. And and so I mean, I thought of myself as a girl. And every time I was with a guy, I thought of myself as a girl. But I had long nails and I wore my makeup and I wore my heels back then in the 90s as well.
Hmm.
And I couldn't keep a job because of it. I got fired from shoe store after shoe store. Um, and I ended up becoming a baker at Tim Hortons. Of all places, I was a baker on the night shift. And it was the only job I could get in the Maritimes at that point in time. And I pumped gas as well. I got fired from pumping gas because I was too femme. You could,
That's
it was like from
yeah.
pumping gas. Like, I mean, I wasn't qualified to pump gas.
Yeah.
So yeah. Gosh, it was a good thing I left the Maritimes, honestly, because it was tragic. Um, so yeah, the jobs that I did and the things that I did before going to Toronto. Once I was in Toronto, though, I became a receptionist, and that's really what I wanted to do is be a receptionist. I absolutely loved being a receptionist and doing that job. And
Yeah.
I yeah, I actually have a scary story about that job too in regards to trans women. And when I first moved to Toronto, I can remember going out to a pageant and it was rocky. It was rough. I was uncomfortable going to a pageant, and I didn't feel like the girls were very accepting of me. And I mean, I had my own insecurities that I was dealing with, and I was like going okay. And I ended up one night. I ended up getting beat up one night in Toronto, and I was like going okay, that's not good. And I'm at work one day, and I have them telling me, I'm not going to use my dead name, but they're like, Chayclynn, you've got to be, you've got to be less casual. And that was their way. That was how they said it to me. Don't be so casual,
Yeah.
you know. And I was like going, okay, don't be so casual. And I worked for a company that was it was a temp agency, And I can remember there was a trans woman who came in that was looking for work, and this would have been in the year 2000, I think. And I mean, I'm piecing it together.
Yeah.
Um, but I'd say it was around the year 2000, and she came in and she was looking for work, and I could remember her being told that because her ID all matched up with male, that she would have to meet the dress codes for men. And I I know this is back in 2000, but
I
this is
know,
me
I know, I
standing here
know. Yeah. I'm
watching
trying to
this,
hold it in. Yeah.
and I was mortified for her. I was mortified and terrified watching this. I was just, girl, you're not going to end up on the street. You're like, and I'm just watching this. I mean, I ended up in the hospital with staples in my head. I went to the pageants and I couldn't connect with anyone. And I was just, it was so rough. It was so hard to exist and to, I mean, to afford a place to live and to keep a job and to find love and to find connection with people. And to be femme was so hard in that time. It was such a different world that I just hidden myself at that point afterwards. And
Yeah, it's all those little things, right? Those little experiences. It's like, no, because I don't want to end up in this situation. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, there was just so many influences that you saw around you that made it so hard to be authentic and sincere with yourself. And then the internalization of all of that, um, it's overwhelming and what it can do to tear you apart inside of yourself. Um, and uh, and that's where I've been in the past few years, is just trying to shed all of that and to come out from behind all of it. Um, so there's my joyful little story for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really important story, right? And like I remember like a year before I came out, I don't know if you've ever heard of the channel. It's called Philosophy Tube.
No.
But she was male presenting on the channel for years. Like the channel grew, it became really popular, and she just went over philosophy and talked about it as someone who was educated in it, right? And her coming out video was like a hammer to every wall that I had set up around myself to just make it so that I could continue this story of no, I'm a male and I'm man aligned and I can just continue to go it, right? Because like this person who I was looking up to and who was like I'm gonna say a man that I connected to because that's how I experienced it at the time. And then, oh no, she's already well on her way to transitioning. Actually, she's been doing a lot of work to hide that she's been transitioning, and like the reality of it is my reality of it. Wait a second, what's going on? What's happening here? Like that just crumbling of the experience was so formative because it was like all those little things. It was like seeing a trans person on Jerry Springer or Maury Povich and seeing it being portrayed so negatively of like, oh, that's a thing I can't be, or like, you know, Thai ladyboys, that's the thing, and like that's the
Yeah.
thing I don't want to be, and like because I'm not some boy who dresses up as a girl. I'm a woman, and I just happened to have this body.
No, to be honest, ladyboy pride as well. Those ladyboys deserve their pride as
Oh,
well.
absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
if that's who you are, you rock it and you live it. But it's
Yeah.
not who I am. So I couldn't connect to that. I could
Yeah.
just not connect to it.
Yeah, one
Um,
of my favorite femboys is a trans man, like, like transitioned and is a femboy,
yeah.
and it's lovely. It's trans skater boy fiance on Facebook and stuff. Like, pretty popular at this point, actually above the popularity threshold of this podcast. But if we grow this above 50,000 followers, then maybe I can match him and I could get him on here because I would love to talk to Eddie. Seriously. Like, I would love to pick his brain. Like, it was seeing him and how he expresses gender and identity really helped me come to terms with my gender fluidity and how like I can be more masculine and I can still be the woman I want to be, right? Like my transition pathway is I'm a trans woman, but my
Yep.
gender identity is so much more fluid than that. And I really like delving into my mask energy. And like, I put it away. When I came out as trans, I came out as a trans woman and I put that away. And Alice was here and Michael was gone, right? And he just needed a fucking nap. Like, he just needed a break from taking the whole load. Yeah.
I think there's an aspect of myself that I really have put away for a little while, and I noticed that in the past little bit that I'm really starting. I mean, I've just only been transitioning now for 3 years or 2 years actually,
Yeah.
um, and and I can feel myself that I'm starting to be able to get comfortable and being quite sincere and being able to find, okay, who am I when I was younger, and still be able to connect to that now and be quite sincere. Like I'm no longer feeling like I need to portray that I'm a woman. I don't feel like I need to put on that presentation anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm just getting to be who I am. And that is just starting for me at this moment now. Um, and like just recently in the past month or so, have I really started to feel that and to be able to sit back in it. And um, I love the diversity with the they them and the ability to connect to both genders. And I think what my biggest struggle has been is with that I really am so femme, and it's who I am
Mm-hmm.
sincerely as an individual, and and to and to just be able to live in it, the and to learn how to live in that and still keep those attributes of who I am as an individual, and not lose them, is huge.
Yeah.
And like some people might call it the masculine, and I'm like, I don't really find it the masculine within me,
Well,
as much
I
as it
think that
is
like
just
our
being
soul
human.
is non-binary, right? Our
Yeah,
like our gender is just what we like to layer on top of that, the clothing we like to wear, the things we like to do, how we like to live our lives, like, and however we connect to that and how we connect to ourselves and resonate with ourselves is how that expression comes out. Like we could get rid of all these labels and just refer to people as people.
exactly. We
Yeah.
could, and I think I'd be very happy with that.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Like if everything was non-binary conversation, then everything would be non-binary conversation, right? Like it wouldn't be this thing where like what you do and your role in sexual reproduction is a conversation you have with your partners,
Yeah,
right? Like that's nobody else's business.
you're right.
Yeah. I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm so glad when people agree with me. I'm like, yay, I'm saying the good words. Yeah. So when did you come out as trans?
Um, December 12th. Um, it will be 2 years this December 12th that I officially came out as trans. I actually made a TikTok on December the 12th, 2 years ago, um, where I announced it. But before that, I had been deciding on it, and on whether or not I was going to come out as trans. Um, and before that, I had identified as non-binary for a year, or just over. So it was right after shaving off my beard. My beard was a huge thing for me, to hide behind, and it's an interesting thing to be able to hide behind a beard,
This is my chest
like a
hair.
yeah, like a physical beard was able to to give me so much protection in the world. I could walk through a place late at night, and I was comfortable doing that because I had this physical appearance, that gave that to me. And once I took that away, and I felt exposed, I'm like going, no, yeah. this is the right path. This is what I need to do for me, to be authentic and be myself. And so yeah, it was shortly after that that I made that. Well, a month and a half after that that I just solidly made that decision. I had been looking at that point. I had started in September. I was in talking to the doctor in September and trying to work on starting HRT, but I didn't actually start HRT until February. So it was like a slow process for me,
Oh yeah.
to get moving forward on it. And I kept looking at the doctor, going, no, no, I'm okay. I can wait. And he's like, okay. And then once I decided, and he's like, no, you gotta wait. And I'm like, because they don't
No.
let you start right away. So it's like, well, now I'm ready. Like, God
Yeah.
damn it, don't, sorry, don't make me wait now.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't
Like,
make me
he's
wait
like,
now. Yeah. And you don't have to worry about your language. This is not for kids. Yeah.
and so once I made that decision, and because I waited so long myself to make that decision, to move forward, that when the doctor finally looks at me and goes, you know what, you got to wait. I'm like, don't make me wait any longer. It was only a month he made me wait, but I waited another month before I started.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I came out the January of the same year you did. So just about a full year before you. My egg was super cracking that December though. Like things were not good. I was not in a good state. But when that egg finally cracked and then it was like I came out end of January to my partner at the time and then I came out to like everybody early February and then I started HRT June. Yeah. So I got myself aligned. I found a doctor. My doctor's great. I love him.
Oh, it's HRT. It just changed the whole game for me.
It really did. It was like, oh, there's like the thing that's missing,
There's the
right?
thing that's concerned. That's exactly it.
Yeah. And then my
And
brain just like calmed down.
I can't say that mine has totally calmed down because of the HRT. I have a,
Puberty's a
I,
ride.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Cause like, yeah, this things are like mellower now, but there was some crazy times in there. There was some hormonal spikes and just like mood shifting and the whole like when you hit that middle ground and there's like no hormones going on, like the testosterone's not there and the estrogen's not there, like neither one's kind of in control. That's the really weird space. That's the space I don't like to be in. That's why like I try and stay really ritual with my HRT injections now because like I've had some stretches without it and I just feel that like it's like mud. You know.
I was told that I cannot do the injections, or I couldn't start with injections early. Maybe I can in time do injections, but it's the, you need to go. I mean, I'm in my 50s, so you need to go slower with your body. You can't go so fast because it can cause. You got to be good to yourself, and
Yeah.
keep yourself healthy. So it's only been with the pills that I've been able to move forward with so far from what the doctors have recommended.
Well, and if
But
your levels are fine, then it doesn't really matter, right? I
no,
started
it
on the
doesn't.
pills and then I was like metabolizing it too fast.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was up to like 8 a day. And I was
Oh
like,
my
this is
gosh.
nuts. Like, and my doctor was like, okay, let's do the shots. I was like, I can't do this. This isn't sustainable. Like,
Wow. No. But yeah, going through puberty all over again is just, it's an incredible thing to do at such a late point in life.
yeah, it's really crazy. I haven't shaved in over a week.
Really?
I trim it. I trim it with clippers, so it doesn't have a lot of length. But like, this is my shadow,
You're doing good. You're
right?
doing good.
It's just like I epilated it once, and I did at
Well,
home light work for a little bit.
I haven't shaved in 2 days, but I have to admit I do laser on a regular basis. So
Yeah, and like I'm so excited to start laser. I've been annoyed because like as my HRT goes on, I could have just lasered it all at the start. It was all dark hairs, and now I've got so many blonde hairs. I'm like, oh, my electrolysis is gonna be the worst.
xylocaine is your best friend.
That's what I hear. Yeah. Yeah. And like even my chest hair is like I don't shave it and I've got a little patch. When I had like a see my vest from Mr. Burns chest, like I was hairy. Like my neck hair became my chest hair, became my leg hair, became my arm hair.
I did not. I did not actually. That's something I'm grateful for is that I did not have a lot of body hair, and I never did. So it. I mean, you can go back, you can see old stuff where I mean, I had a fair bit, but it wasn't that thick. So I'm quite pleased with the after a couple of years on HRT that has actually thinned down and softened down quite a bit.
Yeah,
So
it
it
really
I
makes a
do not have.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have to be that religious with the shaving on it because the hairs have become so fine and soft that it really, I'm happy with them to a
Yeah, I
certain
find
point.
even like the shaving isn't as much of an irritant or anything. It's easier to do. It's not like that
Yeah.
thick, coarse, testosterone based hair. There was like a whole phase where like hairs would just fall out, like the root was just like done. And I was like, there goes the testosterone. Like that's what I would call it, because like I wouldn't be plucking it, I wouldn't do anything, and I'd just like pull a hair and it would pull the whole root out, or I'd like do this and a bunch would fall out of my chest.
Oh, thank you for talking and let me talk with you today, Alice. I don't. It's really great to have an opportunity to talk to another trans woman in the world. And I've noticed that, I mean, I have my friends that I have, but I don't have a lot of exposure to people that have transitioned, that are male to female, and I don't. I found like I'm just doing it on my own, and I'm figuring it out on my own. I am blessed that I have. I call him my trans puppy. Yeah, I have a trans guy that has been a friend of mine, and for the past few years that I've talked to him and shared, I could share like, when I wanted to change my name. And that was
Hmm.
even when I was just in the non-binary era. And he's been there for me. Like he could listen to me, but to turn around and have the ability to talk to a trans woman that is very capable of being able to express and explain is a huge deal for me. And thank you for giving me that opportunity to do that today with
Oh
you.
yeah, and I think it's important. And I've found in the trans community that it's really hard for people to like build that connection and trust. Right? We've had a lot of issues growing
Yeah.
up and just going through life, and a lot of us have mental health struggles, and like there's so much of that within the community that I find it's really hard for us to connect and to trust each other and to just
Yeah.
have that ability to talk about these things and be open. I've being like trying to figure out my gender fluidity and leaning more towards the non-binary and like being comfortable with my body hair and stuff like that has caused me issues in trans femme circles because like there's a lot of that community that's very we need to be like if it's not hyper feminine it's masculine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's all individual. And I think that is it just hurts community for that. When
Yeah.
you're in any position, as soon as you turn around and say, "Oh no, you shouldn't do that," or this doesn't fit for me, it doesn't matter if it fits for you, it fits for them and who
Yeah.
they are, or who she is, or who he is.
Yeah.
And that is and we can't do that. We just got to look at everyone and let everybody be who they are. And there's no rules to it, really. There isn't. There's none.
Yeah,
And
it's
and
just
when we
life.
start yeah, and when you start putting those rules in place, it it hurts people. It doesn't help them in any way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
And it is yeah. So when you turn around and say, oh, you have to, this is what's trending right now, or this is what you got to do, or this is how you do that. No, you don't have to do it that way. Do it your own way.
Yeah,
And
do it your way. And if they ask for advice and guidance, you can give that, but it's just your position of it, right? It's not the ultimate decision of what they should do or what they can do. You're just giving them information so that they can go forward and use it how they will.
one of my favorite things that I heard someone say is use I statements.
Yeah,
Use an I
instead of you
statement, right?
statements. Yeah.
Yeah, or we, like, like as a trans woman, like when people look at my TikToks, I hope they realize it's like that's me.
Yeah.
That's just my point of view. Or this is my experience. This is my it has nothing to do with the girl next door.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This is my life. It's not her life, and her life is hers. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't just because of who I am does not give you the ability to say, okay, well, this is what Chayclynn does, so this is what you are. And it's like, no, she's her. I'm me. Like,
Yeah.
we're not all the same. We're all so vastly different, and I think that's important, and I think that's wonderful, and it and that I statement part, and I had that epiphany, and that was a while ago, and it was just an incredible thing on me being able to go and be, yes, like let's see all of this. Let's, yeah.
Yeah. This is who I am. This is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. This is my journey, right? And once you own it and you realize it's your individual thing, then you can kind of let go of all the this is the traditional way to do it, this is the path to do it. It's however you want to do it, however you want to express it. Just because I am gender fluid and I view myself as having feminine and masculine energy and I flip-flop between those, and I refer to my feminine as Alice and I refer to my masculine as Michael. That's just how I communicate it. That doesn't mean that's how all gender fluid people are, right? Yeah.
Exactly. You're the place that, Alice.
Yeah. Yeah. And this was a big part of why I wanted to get you on here and why I wanted to talk to you in the first place, right? Because, like, I just think your take on life is so valuable for people to understand, right? Because, like, you're very real and honest on your TikTok about the struggles you're going through and when you're having a bad day versus when you're having a good day. And it's important for people to hear that stuff, right? Especially in this social media land where if I wanted to, I could go into the video of this and I could tweak it so that we both look just a little bit nicer and the colors pop just a little bit crisper, and I can mess with the audio to make it sound just a little bit better, right? I'm not going to do any of those things.
Okay.
I don't got the time. I'm a single mom. I'm going to take this, put an intro and an outro on it, and put it on the internet.
Hey, don't get me wrong. When I'm on TikTok, I love my filter.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they make a big difference. They help a lot. They're super useful. Even just changing like the tint of the entire video sometimes can make such a world of difference.
It
And
really
like
can.
you see it. You see how it affects when you're a content creator, you see how it affects things and you see how you get more engagement and you get more views, and like that's part of the job. And I very much see it as a job.
I I see it. My TikTok is like my journal. It is like it is my ability to live my life openly and take my journal and go, here world, it's not my complete journal. There's stuff I do keep for myself, but it's my way of going, here's who I am. And then if people are coming up to me and talking to me on the street, I'm out there. I don't have anything to hide.
Yeah.
um, I have put myself out there in this world. And I mean, I'm not, when somebody comes up to me, I'm not going to talk the same way as I do on TikTok. But I do know that who I am is out there and what I believe is out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps me from having any fear when I do have a conversation with someone on the street that it's like, oh, yeah, I have a TikTok. Go take a look at it. Like you'll see
Yeah.
who I am.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
and it just gives me that confidence in the real world to go to work and be who I am in the real world because I've put my true self out there, and and it gives me strength. So that's why I do it. I don't use hashtags. I used to promote, I remember about a year ago, because I thought, okay, let's see if we push this out there, what this is going to be like. And I regretted doing it. I really regretted giving that a try. I was like going, oh, this went to the wrong place. This is not where I want to go. This is not what I want to do.
I
And
got banned from using promote on TikTok. I'm not allowed to use it for 10 years.
stars.
Yeah. CapCut was doing a promotion thing where, like, if you were posting 1 minute videos every day, then every week you would get a promote code for TikTok. And I used it on one of my beard update videos, which was, those are political videos, and that's very against the rules. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, you're just mad because it was getting, people liked it.
Uh, I noticed, like, if I'm following you on TikTok now, or I start following you, it's because you are a trans woman. And I want to see and hear everyone's stories. I
Yeah.
want to expose myself to that, and I want to support that. Um, and that's what that is to me now. I don't, you know, I follow a few people outside of that, but it's usually because there's some kind of a connection to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's very, very few cis women that I follow, and it's usually because they've shown me some kind of kindness that I've connected with, to a certain level, that I'll turn around and go, you know what? No, I can vibe with you a little bit, and I can get along with you a little bit, and I'll follow them back. Um, but that's very, very minimal. I actually went through the other day, and I was just like going, oh, okay, celebrities, no, get rid of them. I don't want to follow them on here. I just
I
want this to
understand
be
that.
real, and I want it to be sincere. So I'm not about growing my numbers and my followers as much as I would love to just be part of trans community on it. So, hey, trans girls, if you're out there, please go follow me on TikTok,
Yeah.
and I'd love
If
to
you
follow
if you're a
you back.
trans person, it's a good way to get a follow back from Candi for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the same with the trans guys. I love the trans guys out there. And I follow so many trans men, and I love it when the trans guys follow me back, and the non-binary do the same, because it's that community, and having that feeling connected to that means so much to me. And
Yeah.
it
It
really,
gives you that
and I'm,
community that you don't feel like you have in your physical, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there is that community out here, but again, it's like you say, we all have our stories and our trust levels, right? And so yeah, I'm getting that off my TikTok now, and that's what I'm working on with it. And it's public, but I don't promote it. I don't use hashtags. I just let it ride, and let it be what it is, and let it
Yeah.
grow organically in its own little slow pace now.
Yeah.
And
I like doing
and
that
I'm
with
good with
some of my
that.
readings, because that's
Yeah.
basically all I've been using my TikTok for lately, is like my oracle readings and stuff, and it's just, that's what I was called to start putting out there. And a big part of that is because, like, I try to be engaged in the trans community, and I think my messages can help.
It is. I love your readings when you do it. I mean, and I've expressed to you that I don't stick around for the Pokemon, but I do like your original
It's
cards
not
when
your
you do it.
generation. Yeah.
Not my generation, and but I love it with your first card. It just, and sometimes I'm like, yeah, that really hits for me for today. But it gives me that ability to just think about it, and it just, not necessarily that it is, this is going to define my day or how it's going to work, but it gives me that ability to go, oh, okay, Alice is pulling a card, and let's look at it. What does it mean? And it just gives you that little bit of chance to be introspective, I guess. And I enjoy it every day when I see
Which
it
is
go
all I
by.
think the cards are meant to do, right? Is just give you
Yeah,
that chance to have that introspection.
yeah. So I enjoy seeing you. So you probably see me do a like on you every time I see you go by in my feed.
Pretty much. It's the same way the other way. Every time I see your videos, it's always like, oh, good. I don't do a lot of scrolling on social media. I just have so much other stuff going on in my life. But like
Yeah.
every time I upload a video, what I do is I pull out my friends list, like my following list, and I just go through that, and I'll interact with the people in there. and then I'm out, and then I'm gone. It's like 3 or 4 videos, and then I'm out. Yeah, but I like to stick around until the video finishes uploading, just in case something happens or something goes wrong. Or,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. I can appreciate that.
Thank you so much for this conversation. I think we've hit kind of a natural ending point in it. So, do you want to rep what your TikTok is again? And do you have any other socials?
Uh, I am Everyday Chayclynn on Instagram. So if you're a trans girl, please follow me on Everyday Chayclynn on Instagram, and I
I
share a
will
lot
be.
of my TikToks. I share a lot of my TikToks on there, um, and that has been Everyday Chayclynn used to be Everyday, my dead name, and everything's still there. So it really has my life
That's awesome.
um, going forward from a long time. The and so yeah, I guess that's the only one. I do have Candi Struts on Instagram as well, but it's really much just a showgirl.
Oh
So it
yeah.
really doesn't have very much of the personal on there. It's really Candi Struts as the character. And then my TikTok, of course, Candi Struts on there is not just Candi Struts, which is where it was starting off. It has really evolved to Everyday Chayclynn and Candi Struts merged together. So it's the two, and it really kind of gives you a holistic view of me. So if you want to follow me on those, I'd be greatly appreciated. And if you are in the community and you are trans or non-binary, I will probably follow you back.
It's fair. Yeah. It's always a good thing to add to the community, right? Yeah. And you're in my Discord server now, so if people are in there, they can pop in and say hi and probably see you around, and or not.
Yeah,
That's kind of how
yeah.
Discord works. Yeah.
My Discord, I'm really I got introduced to Discord a couple of years ago, and the only people that I'm friends with on Discord are trans women.
That's
Um,
awesome.
I
Yeah.
have a very small community of trans women that I know here on Discord, and
Do you know what a group of trans women is called? A
no,
Discord server. It's our thing. We congregate here. We congregate on Discord. It's almost like so many
that
of
makes
us are
perfect
just
sense.
in that internet vibe, right? Because it was a lot of the space where we were truly allowed to be ourselves and truly allowed to start to express ourselves and stuff like that. I think that's why. That's my thought on it.
I understand it.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Alice. You have a great day too.
So yeah, everybody, that's it. That's all. That's the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I do have all Chayclynn's info down here as well as the event link. So if you're in that like sort of lower West Coast area and you have the opportunity to go check out this drag show, then you could really help support just what they're doing. And they're trying to get people more affordable housing. And I think that's a really noble goal, and it's a good reminder that like that's what queer people like to focus on, is just sort of that building of community and that connecting of resources, because there's a lot of unconnected dots, and it just takes us all to connect them. So if you're interested in this and you like the podcast, hit that subscribe button, follow along, let me know what you think and how it's going. I would love to hear from you, and I would love to hear back from you. As always, you can reach me at Raven for Truth here, or you can go to my other socials at Raven for Tea, where the femme side of things kind of runs the show over there, and it's a lot more spirituality focused and a lot less just life stories, because that's what this is, right? This is the life stories. That's like the after. So yeah, that's it. That's all. Here's the podcast, and I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will be back with you next week for another interview. It is a hot week of recording for me. So, and as always, please, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, reach out to me, find a means to do that. I will have the conversation with you. My only limit on it right now is 50,000 followers across all social media platforms. If it's above that, sorry, this podcast isn't for you. I'm looking for smaller creators or just people I run into to get their stories. And as my follower count grows above that 50,000 limit, then that will be the new limit. Whatever my follower count is will be the limit for this. That's what I've decided. So yeah, that's it. That's all. Peace, love, and unicorns. Later, Gators.